Imagine, you're scrolling through social media and you spot someone saying some really scary stuff. They're bragging about dangerous people, and they sound serious. Would you report them? Or just scroll by? This is exactly what happened when people saw posts from a teenage boy named Solomon Henderson. Solomon praised people who had done terrible things, and even bragged that one had followed him. Someone online got worried and sent a tip to the FBI, but sadly nothing happened. Solomon was left alone to continue planning something awful, something he wrote about over and over again. Just weeks later, Solomon walked into Antioch High School near Nashville, Tennessee. It's a big school with around 2,000 kids from grades 9 to 12. Even though the school had security cameras, police officers, and special alarms, none of it stopped what happened next. You see, Solomon wasn't the first to do something like this. He had learned from others before him, teens who were struggling and ignored until it was too late. And sadly, he wouldn't be the last. But here's the big question. Could anyone have stopped Solomon from carrying out this plan? The police knew about him, the school knew about him, and even classmates knew something wasn't right. But why didn't anyone do anything serious to stop him? This is the chilling story of Solomon Henderson, and how a community missed all the signs until it was too late. Solomon Henderson was born in 2007 into what seemed like a regular middle-class family, but things weren't as normal as they looked. Growing up, Solomon claimed that his parents belonged to a group called the Black Hebrew Israelites, a small religious group who believes African Americans are the true descendants of people in the Bible. But life at home wasn't happy. Solomon said his mom often hurt him, sometimes even using dangerous objects to scare him. One time, when he was only 13, Solomon got into trouble for hitting his mom. She had asked him to clean the yard, and things got out of control. Police had to step in, charging Solomon with assault. This showed early on that things weren't right in his life. By 14, things got worse. Solomon ran away from home, causing his parents to call the police. Officers visited the home several times over the next 2 years. During one visit in 2023, police found 2 weapons inside the house. They belonged to adults, but Solomon later claimed one of the weapons was actually his. He bragged that his dad took the blame for him, keeping him out of trouble. Solomon didn't have many friends at school. Classmates described him as smart, but quiet and hard to know. One girl who shared a class with him said, "He always did his work and was one of the smartest in class. He was nice, but he never talked much." But Solomon wasn't always quiet. In October 2024, he threatened a 15-year-old girl named Jemima with a box cutter at Antioch High School. Jemima and her family expected Solomon to get serious punishment, but he only got a 2-day suspension. Jemima was surprised when Solomon was allowed back so quickly. "He had a knife in school," she said. "Why wasn't he expelled?" School officials didn't seem to see Solomon as a real danger, at least not yet. But inside, Solomon was already planning something worse. He started writing in a secret diary online, posting angry thoughts and hateful messages. In his diary, Solomon wrote that he didn't want to be loved anymore. Instead, he said he wanted people to hate him because that's the only real feeling. He also complained a lot about being black, believing this was the reason he had trouble making friends. Solomon blamed almost everyone for his problems, including his own parents. Meanwhile, Solomon had become obsessed with dangerous criminals, learning everything about them, praising them, and trying to copy them. He dressed like them, took selfies like them, and started posting pictures of himself trying to look tough. Teachers noticed his grades were slipping, and some even called him a walking red flag. A teacher later told reporters that Solomon seemed like a kid who really needed help, but nothing changed. Looking back, the warning signs were all there. Police knew about him, classmates knew about him, and teachers knew about him. Yet no one did anything serious. Solomon continued planning quietly, hoping to become just like those dangerous people he admired online. While Solomon struggled in the real world, online was different. On social media, he found people who thought like he did, troubled teens who felt rejected and angry. Solomon admired dangerous criminals and began posting online about how much he liked them. Soon he became part of groups where teens encouraged each other to commit terrible acts. It wasn't long before Solomon made a dangerous friend online, a girl named Samantha Rupp. Samantha, just 15 years old, shared Solomon's scary interests. She also spent her time online praising criminals who committed horrible attacks. Samantha even posted photos from inside her own school bathroom, hinting at plans to do something terrible to her classmates. Solomon saw her post, and he responded with a chilling comment: "Live stream it." Sadly, Samantha followed through with her plan, taking the lives of 2 people at her school before taking her own life. When Solomon learned that Samantha had followed him online just before her attack, he became excited, almost starstruck. He bragged about it in his posts, writing things like, "I used to follow someone who became a real school shooter." Solomon started praising Samantha, even calling her a saint for what she'd done. He admired her so much that he changed his own social media picture to one of Samantha. He carved her name onto his things, wanting to copy her every move. Other users online quickly realized something wasn't right with Solomon. One person reported him directly to the FBI, tagging them in a post and saying, "He needs to be locked up right now." But sadly, the FBI never acted on that tip. Instead, Solomon was left free to plan, and things got worse from there. Solomon wrote a diary online, sharing his darkest thoughts and ideas. The pages were filled with anger, hate, and loneliness. He complained about school, his parents, and other kids who annoyed him. He wrote about wanting to attack students, teachers, and even his own family. At one point, Solomon even wrote about possibly attacking his mother while she slept. But then he changed his mind, saying, "I don't think I can do that to my family." Still, he kept planning an attack at his own school. Solomon didn't just want attention, he wanted to be remembered, just like the people he looked up to online. He wrote that he wanted to take the lives of at least 10 students. Solomon thought doing this would make him famous, or at least important. But Solomon wasn't always clear or honest. Sometimes he wrote things that sounded fake, like jokes or pranks to confuse people. He even blamed popular people online for making him violent. He mentioned famous people like Mr. Beast and Kanye West. But it was clear he was mostly just looking for attention. Still, his online behavior became more and more concerning. By late 2024, Solomon was getting ready to follow Samantha's example. He started sharing posts that seemed to celebrate violence, even creating images with Samantha's face on them. He scratched her name into items he planned to use during his attack. He even joked online about who might inspire the next attacker, secretly hoping that he himself would be remembered that way. Solomon's posts were scary enough to attract attention, but somehow, nobody stepped in. With his parents unaware and his school doing very little, Solomon moved closer and closer to the day of his planned attack. On January 22, 2025, the day began just like any other. Solomon Henderson got into the passenger seat of his mom's car, and she drove him to Antioch High School. To his mom, it was a normal morning. She had no idea what Solomon was planning. At school, things felt calm at first. Students moved through the hallways as usual. Teachers and security officers didn't notice anything strange, but hidden inside Solomon's backpack was a weapon he'd secretly brought from home. Despite Antioch High School's advanced security systems, cameras, special alarms, and even police officers stationed at school, no alarms went off. Nothing stopped him. Just before lunchtime, around 11 a.m., Solomon quietly went into a bathroom to prepare. He carefully placed the weapon into his backpack and headed toward the cafeteria, where students gathered, laughing and talking, unaware of the danger. At exactly 11:09, Solomon pulled out his phone and started live streaming on an app called Kick. He wanted people online to watch as he carried out his plan. But the video wasn't clear, mostly showing Solomon's feet in the hallway floor as he walked to the lunch area. He entered the cafeteria without speaking or calling attention to himself. No one saw it coming. Solomon stood quietly in the lunch line for just a moment. Then suddenly, without any warning, he reached into his backpack, pulled out the weapon, and began firing. Chaos filled the cafeteria instantly as students ran and hid wherever they could. The first student Solomon targeted was a 16-year-old girl named Jocelyn Correa Escalante. She lost her life right there in the cafeteria. 2 other students got injured as they tried to escape, but thankfully, both would later recover. Solomon's entire attack lasted only 17 seconds, but to students and staff, it felt like forever. After realizing his plan wouldn't continue as he expected, Solomon quickly ended his own life just as police arrived. When Solomon fell to the floor, his phone kept recording, but the camera faced downward, leaving the live stream dark. students could still be heard panicking, with teachers and police trying to calm things down. After a few chaotic minutes, officers finally picked up Solomon's phone and stopped the stream. The app quickly removed the video, stating clearly, "Violence has no place here. We're cooperating fully with police." In the end, investigators found Solomon had fired 10 times, with many more rounds still unused. It was clear he'd intended to harm many more people, something he'd written about repeatedly in his diary. Police soon discovered Solomon's disturbing writings online, along with connections he'd made with Samantha and other troubled teens online. They realized this attack wasn't random. Solomon had carefully planned everything, hoping to become famous for it. After the attack, parents gathered nervously at a nearby hospital, desperate to reunite with their children. Teachers and school staff tried to explain what had happened, but no one could understand why Solomon had done this. Antioch High School had advanced security, but even that wasn't enough to see the danger until it was too late. That night, the community gathered at a church called United Family Fellowship to support each other. Students hugged each other and cried, confused and heartbroken. But anger quickly grew as families learned about Solomon's troubling past and how many times his behavior had been ignored. Jemima, the student Solomon threatened months earlier, was especially upset. She said the school had failed everyone. He had a knife before, she reminded reporters. Why didn't they see this coming? Solomon's attack had ended quickly, but the questions were just beginning. How many signs had been missed, and why hadn't anyone stepped in sooner? As investigators searched for answers, one thing became clear. The community had ignored Solomon's problems for far too long. After Solomon's attack, everyone wanted answers. They asked, could this tragedy have been prevented? Why were so many obvious warning signs missed? Police immediately started digging deeper into Solomon's life. They discovered troubling events in his past, events authorities already knew about, but had somehow overlooked. When Solomon was just 13, back in 2020, police were called after a serious argument with his mom. During this fight, Solomon punched his mother and even tried throwing a chair at her. Officers charged him with assault, but this important event didn't lead to lasting consequences. No one seemed to see how serious Solomon's behavior could become. 3 years later, in 2023, police visited Solomon's house again and took away 2 weapons belonging to adults in the home. Solomon later claimed online that one belonged to him, but police records couldn't confirm this clearly. Even after this incident, authorities didn't take extra steps to provide Solomon with mental health support or counseling. Things got even worse the following year, in 2024. Solomon brought a box cutter to school and threatened a 15-year-old girl named Jemima. Police charged him with reckless endangerment. But even after that incident, Solomon only faced a short 2-day suspension. Jemima felt shocked and upset, wondering why Solomon wasn't expelled after something so serious. Her family had chosen not to press charges, hoping instead the school would provide Solomon with counseling. But now Jemima's mother deeply regrets that choice. She said publicly, "I wish we'd gone to court. Maybe then he would have gotten help. The school let everyone down." Teachers also noticed Solomon's problems at school. His grades dropped sharply and he began to isolate himself, clearly sensing something was wrong. Yet, despite clear rules about handling these situations, Solomon never received a proper threat assessment. That meant nobody was carefully watching his online posts or monitoring his behavior in school. Experts reviewing the case pointed out serious mistakes made by the school and authorities. They explained that threat assessments, formal evaluations to check if students pose real danger, should have been required, especially after Solomon's past behavior. Melissa Nelson, a school safety expert, explained how these assessments help troubled kids early by getting them counseling or support. When kids show signs of anger or trouble, she said, we need to step in quickly, not later when it's too late. In Tennessee, strict rules usually punish even small threats severely. For instance, younger kids have been expelled or arrested for pretend threats that never put anyone in real danger. But Solomon, who actually brought a dangerous object to school, didn't face serious consequences. Judge Sheila Calloway from Davidson County Juvenile Court explained this is exactly the type of real threat police should focus on, but sometimes miss due to too many false alarms. Lawmakers began asking whether Tennessee's policies needed changing. State Representative Gloria Johnson argued that schools should focus more on prevention, getting troubled kids real help, rather than severely punishing small threats or childish mistakes. "We need solutions that stop tragedies," she said, "not harsh punishments for kids who aren't dangerous." After Solomon's attack, many parents and students felt deeply let down. Antioch High School was supposed to be safe, with high-tech security, cameras, and police officers. Yet Solomon managed to enter the building without raising any alarms. School officials later explained that their security camera system simply wasn't able to detect Solomon's hidden weapon from where he stood. For parents and students, that answer wasn't good enough. Police declined to give clear answers about why Solomon's earlier behavior didn't trigger stronger action, citing confidentiality laws. But the community felt it deserved better explanations. Solomon's diary and online posts clearly showed he'd been planning this for months. He'd connected with troubled teens online and openly praised dangerous people, yet nobody stepped in early enough. As the community struggled to recover, one thing became very clear. Solomon wasn't an isolated case. Experts warned that there are other troubled students out there quietly sending signals. And without real changes, such as early intervention and better responses from police and schools, another tragedy might happen again soon. The question remained, would anyone listen before it was too late next time? In the days after Solomon's actions, the Antioch community tried hard to recover. Students returned to school less than a week later, but things didn't feel normal. Everyone was struggling to make sense of what happened. Many felt afraid, angry, and confused. They wanted to understand how such clear warning signs could have been ignored. Parents became especially worried about their children's safety at Antioch High School. They asked school leaders why more wasn't done to prevent this tragedy. Adrienne Battle, Nashville's director of schools, responded by promising that they would look closely at improving school safety measures. But she admitted there are limits to what technology alone can do. She explained that the cameras at Antioch High School didn't detect Solomon's hidden weapon due to his location in the building. "We need better solutions," she said, "and we'll keep searching until we find them." Despite these assurances, many parents remained deeply troubled. Jemima, the girl Solomon had threatened earlier, spoke out strongly. She told reporters the school had failed her and every other student. Jemima felt betrayed by school leaders who had promised to protect students, but didn't act seriously enough. Her family believed the school should have taken stronger action when Solomon first showed signs of trouble. Other parents echoed this anger, wondering why a student like Solomon had faced fewer consequences than younger students punished harshly for minor incidents. They called for clearer guidelines and quicker action whenever students showed troubling behavior. The community felt strongly that Solomon's situation showed that Tennessee needed better ways to respond early, long before students reached their breaking point. But there was also a deeper question that kept coming up. Could Solomon's tragic path have been prevented much earlier if he'd gotten support instead of punishment? Experts said the answer is yes. Melissa Nelson, a school safety specialist, emphasized the importance of stepping in early. She said, "When schools and police see a troubled kid, the goal shouldn't just be punishment. It should be getting that student help and guidance. That's how we stop tragedies like this." Even Solomon himself had written online about his loneliness, pain, and anger. He believed no one cared about him, not his teachers, classmates, or even his parents. He repeatedly wrote in his diary that he felt completely alone and misunderstood. Looking back, these were all cries for help, signals that should have prompted a real response from someone around him. Violence prevention experts also warned about the dangers of online groups like the ones Solomon had followed. These groups target vulnerable young people, encouraging them toward dangerous behavior. Solomon and Samantha weren't alone. Many other teens were influenced by these same groups. Experts said that spotting kids who spend too much time in these online spaces could be critical in preventing future tragedies. This case forced schools across Tennessee, and even across the country, to look again at how they handle troubled students. Many started improving ways to identify warning signs early. Communities began asking tough questions. How many troubled students might be quietly waiting for someone to notice them and help them before it's too late? For Antioch, the tragedy raised painful questions. Could something different have been done? Could someone have spoken up sooner or stepped in earlier? Maybe if Solomon had received counseling, or if teachers and police had taken the early warnings seriously, things could have ended differently. So here's something to think about. When you see troubling signs in your school, online, or in your community, what would you do? Would you speak up even if you're unsure? Or would you stay silent, hoping someone else will act instead? If there's one lesson here, it's that speaking up matters. We can't ignore signs of trouble, no matter how small they seem. If this story made you think, please give this video a like, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more important stories. Thanks so much for watching. Let's all work together to prevent tragedies like this from happening again.